Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the Las Vegas Real Estate Update. I'm Kendall Trotter from RE/MAX Platinum. Today I have with me Jason Van Zant from RE/MAX Platinum, one of the premier REO listing agents in the Las Vegas Valley. My phone rings every day with questions about how to buy foreclosures correctly. So I figured I'd bring it straight to the source. Jason, thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for having me.
On my side, people seem to think when they call me up that they say, Kendall, I want to buy a foreclosure. I want to get it 30% under the market. I've heard this and that and this and that. From a listing agent's point of view, is working for the bank, what are the odds of that happening?
Very seldom does it happen. The only time that we really see properties go a substantial amount under list price is when we have what they call an aged asset. An aged asset's one, obviously, that's been on the market for quite some time. They've been trying to sell it for 5, 6, 7 months, sometimes a year. We're in a transitional market, so a lot of things are taking place, and there's a lot of variables there. Most of the time, they're losing money on the properties anyways. They're looking to get the most back out of that property as possible. So obviously they're looking for owner occupants. That's their first preference, is to sell to someone's going to be an end user and end up in that property, live in it. They're willing to pay more. An investor obviously wants to turn it over. So a lot of times, and especially this year, we're seeing more and more repairs taking place, and the banks are looking to rehab and get the most out of them as opposed to sell them to an investor that's going to do the same thing.
I agree. I closed one last week. It wasn't your listing, but it was an REO. And for all of our viewers that doesn't know what REO means, it stands for real estate owned. It's basically a word for foreclosure / bank owned. The one I just closed last week, I was representing the buyer's side. The bank had completely came in, painted it, carpeted it, made it really nice and showable. Are you seeing that with yours as well?
Yeah, we've got quite a few properties. I've got a couple dozen right now that are in the rehab or repair phase, where we're doing anywhere from paint, carpeting, to installing appliances. I've got a condo now that they wanted to sell turnkey. We put fridge, washer, dryer, blinds in it, everything. So with the lack of financing, things like that, they're trying to get people that were doing 100% programs that maybe have to put money down now. They're limited. They can't put the money down and their closing costs and for these appliances, so they're eliminating some of these things that are going to come out of their pocket. So
that's smart on their part. So what we're seeing is more banks are opting to fix the property, right, and sell it turnkey, as opposed to fire sell it as
absolutely. And it all depends on the clients. Clients for me are the banks, the lenders. So we do have some that come to us and say, we want to get this thing sold in the next 30 days. What do we need to price it at? And we do have those properties. Or we get them that say, I'll get properties that were listed with another agent, transferred over, listed for 6 months, and they send it over and they say, Jason, we need you to move this. What do we got to do? So we do get some that they just need to move them. The timelines are there. We'll sell them. But typically the prices, we come down, and we come down in phases, so you're still not going to see that 20-30% under. Is there a specific formula that a bank uses to, when they list their property, do they call you, get a BPO, put it out there, kind of see what happens, fish the pond a little bit, and then say, well, it's not moving? Or they pretty much all have similar processes. We start by first thing I do is I get an assignment. We go check occupancy status. We don't know the history. We don't know if it's occupied, rented, vacant, whatever. So we go check that. Once we get that done, we get the initial services done, get any personal property removed. Usually we'll get landscape cleaned up. More and more of the clients are letting me have the properties cleaned. So their goal is to, a lot of them don't even want us to advertise that it's a bank-owned property. They want people to look at that as if it's a normal home, and that's, like I said, they're going for that end user, that owner occupant clientele. So that's that's where they're really going with that.
That's very different from when I first got in the business 9 years ago. When you looked at a HUD home or a foreclosure, they were always tore up. I mean, just always. I've been in them where they've ripped all the cabinets out, the air conditioner's gone. So obviously, you probably have too.
Yeah,
so.
I have one right now that we just got put on the market where the air conditioner's gone, the pool equipment's gone, the sinks are gone. It's a total fixer. That one we've got priced. It's comping out about $240, $250. We got it priced about $175.
So there's your 20% under.
You're right.
Yeah,
like I said, you got some clients, they chose not to make the repairs. So it does happen, just very seldom. Most of them will choose to repair it, but when the repairs are huge, they run more risk. It depends on how much money they're putting in.
So the handyman still can get a pretty good deal.
Absolutely.
If he looks around.
There's a little bit of both worlds. So,
Yeah.
so they're still out there. There's just less of them. So.
Right. Okay. As a listing agent, what can a buyer expect that would make an offer on a typical REO property? What is the process? I know that many times the bank is very slow getting back, accepting it, or counter-offering. Mm-hmm. Typically, in your experience, what is the process? The buyer wants to make an offer on your listing. What's going to happen?
It's going to depend on how prepared that buyer is. If you get all your ducks in a row and you have a standard purchase agreement, they're already pre-approved with very few contingencies, they've got proof of funds, and they're qualified, it's obviously going to go a lot quicker. And then again, it varies by the bank and the properties. Some banks right now are so slammed with offers that it's taking two weeks for responses. I've got others that if I get them in the morning, I'll have a response back the same day.
I've run into that. The last one I've done, there were 10 offers on the one property.
Yeah. And
it went considerably over list price because it was listed so low.
Right.
Buyer still got into about $60,000 worth of equity, according to the appraisal, but there was still over 10. There was 10 offers.
Yeah.
And we barely got the deal, I think, by like $500 or something.
Right.
And,
I'm getting more and more of that happening with the interest rates, the prices where we're getting them priced now. Now that some REOs have closed, we've got those comps that are down there. They realize the state of the market. They want to be aggressive. They don't want to sit on it 6 months. Their goal is to sell them quick. We'll see the comps. We'll price it that much further below, and we'll beat the competition. I've got a few of them right now where we're substantial amount over list price. So
yeah.
Quite unusual to see.
So, are you saying, in your experience, do you think it would be like a normal 30, 45 day process
for closing?
For closing, yeah.
We're looking at more about 45 days. A lot of these properties have liens, especially with the HOA when they're in homeowners associations. We're getting the contracts back from the buyer. Everything's signed. Now all we need is seller signatures. It's taken us 2 weeks to get seller signatures before we can even open escrow.
Because of their backlog?
Right, their backlog. We get escrow open. From there, titles backed up because there's very few title companies that are doing the foreclosures. The banks have them grouped up, so the ones that are doing them are slammed.
I've ran into that as well.
Backed up, so you're getting everything's delayed. Your prelims, everything's delayed. Everything's coming late. The lenders are getting their things late. They're getting the demands out later than they should. Then the collection companies are busy, so they're not getting back as fast as they should. So the escrows, I'm finding, are going more into the 45-day range, and 60 is not even uncommon now.
That's been my experience with these. Like you said, the title companies, they're all using maybe one or two of the same companies, and contrary to popular belief, there are some people that are still busy.
Absolutely.
In Southern Nevada.
The ones that are busy are busier than ever. So
yeah.
It's a very hot or cold market now. Either you're slammed beyond belief or you're just, have nothing going on.
So there are still good deals in foreclosures.
Absolutely.
It's a different game than it was 6-7 years ago with the banks, like you said, choosing to fix up the property, make them turnkey. Maybe they're not selling 20% under what the neighbors sold for, but maybe it's even in better condition now.
Right.
Right. So.
Many of them are in better condition. They're doing more preservation and more repairs than they used to. There are still some deals out there, just less. So.
You got it. Jason, thanks again for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
If any of our viewers have questions, how can they get you?
They can reach me on my number. It's 220-REPO.
220-REPO. I think you can remember that one.
220-REPO.
Thanks a lot, Jason.
Okay. Thanks.